And a Christian TT us earlier and said, like, why are you Muslim? You want to know? For the people that want to know, look into who Paul the Apostle is.
What the heck? Wait, what? What the heck? Do you want to know why I'm a Muslim? Look into who Paul the Apostle was. Are you freaking kidding me?
You want to know who wrote the most books in the Bible? It's Paul the Apostle. He was persecuting the early followers of Jesus before the Trinity existed, before this idea was...
Really? What? Why did nobody tell me this?
...pushed by the church hundreds of years after Jesus was alive.
Wait, what?
Wait.
What the heck did he say? Go back.
Wait.
Hundreds of years. Who was he talking about? Hang on.
You want to know? Look into who Paul the Apostle is.
Okay.
You want to know who wrote? You want to know? For the Bible, it's Paul the Apostle. He was persecuting the early followers of Jesus before the Trinity existed, before this idea was pushed by the church hundreds of years after Jesus was alive or was walking on this earth.
Hang on.
It was pushed by the church. Early followers of Jesus before the Trinity existed, before this idea was pushed by the church hundreds of years after Jesus was alive or was walking on this earth.
So I'm not entirely sure how he jumps from one idea to the other idea. Look who the Apostle Paul was. He wrote the majority of the books in the New Testament. Okay, fine.
What in the name of common sense does that have to do with? You want to know why I converted to Islam? Check out the Apostle Paul. He started off persecuting the Trinity.
What does it have to do with the Trinity, which was allegedly pushed by the church hundreds of years after Jesus? The Trinity was not pushed by the church. That never happened. This is such a stupid misunderstanding that anybody who has looked into Christianity a little bit should not spread. It's nonsense. It is stupid nonsense. The only thing that did happen was that hundreds of years later, the church solidified and laid out that this is what we believe in order to counter heretical movements that did not believe what Christians already believed. And that is when the doctrine of the Trinity became a central core, laid out, dogmatic, written thing. It was all people always believed in the Trinity. People always believed in the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. People always believed that Jesus existed with the Father before humans, that there is only one God in the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. They believed these things in the first century, in the second century, in the third century. It might have been later laid out to tackle heresies, but that doesn't mean it was only then invented or pushed. That's complete nonsense. You can read the earliest texts. You can read the Bible itself, which already makes it very, very clear. But you can also read first century writings. You can read the writings of Saint Ignatius of Antioch, who very, very clearly says that there is only one God in the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Paul the Apostle was killing early Jesus followers, and on the road to Damascus,
really?
He was hit with a light and a sound. Boom! Oh my God! And Paul gets this hit with this light and the sound, and he realizes, no, I'm no longer going to kill Jesus followers. I'm going to adopt Christianity and spread the church message around the world. This is who wrote the most books in the Bible. This is the #1 contributor in the Bible, in the New Testament. And he was a Jew killing early Jesus followers. You want to know what? He never even met Jesus. Why is this guy the authority on Christianity? Why did he write most of the Christian religion without ever meeting Jesus? If you want to follow Jesus, you say Jesus is king. I believe, yeah, Jesus should be followed. We need to listen to his teachings.
David, did the followers of Jesus, whom he himself appointed as disciples and apostles, whom he gave his mission, did they follow Paul? Did they agree with Paul?
They definitely agreed with him. By the way, the Apostle Paul said he did meet Jesus. That's 1 Corinthians 9. If you go to the first 2 chapters of Galatians, Paul explained things. Paul got his vision, whatever experience it was, on the road to Damascus. So SNEAKO got that part right. He received revelations. But the Apostle Paul also believes that Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. So Paul's actually very careful. So eventually he goes up to meet with the apostles themselves in Jerusalem. And he says, and I laid out the gospel that I'd been preaching among the Gentiles for fear that I had been running in vain. In other words, he was ready to go up to Jerusalem. If they said, what are you talking about, dude? That's not the gospel. Where are you getting your revelations? He was ready to hang it up and say, I've been misled. Said instead, nope. The apostles agreed with him.
So wait a minute. You're saying that the Apostle Paul actually ran everything by the apostles whom Jesus himself appointed,
Yep.
and they approved of it?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I think people like SNEAKO, they don't really understand what they're saying. And he's ignorant and kind of dumb.
You think?
It's not an excuse though. But he suggests, or he says something like, and Paul, the Apostle Paul is the one who wrote most of the Bible. Why is he an authority? It sounds to me as if they're imagining a situation, because he himself has never actually read the works. He himself has actually never read the New Testament. I think when he says this kind of stuff, and when Muslims say this kind of stuff, and when he says this stuff with Muslims, it sounds to me as if what they're suggesting is that the writings of the Apostle Paul are a bunch of writings that are kind of like the Quran, of this is what you must do, this is what you shall do, and this is God speaking, and so on. The Apostle Paul happens to be the author of, almost half of the books of the New Testament. Not even most, right? And he happens to be the author of those writings, not because he sat down and wrote this thing that he then declared to be the Bible. It is because he wrote letters full of doctrine, full of belief, full of the gospel to Christians, which Christians read and memorized and then canonized as part of the Bible. It's not that he was like, okay, I'm going to write this thing called the New Testament. These will be the texts of the New Testament. That's not how it happened, man. The whole idea there is completely misleading that these guys are, presenting. It's completely misleading. Secondly, he says that Paul had some vision and he saw some light, and then he decided that he no longer wants to persecute the Christians. That's also not what happened according to the text. It is Jesus himself who came and spoke to Paul, according to the text. So if you want to go by the story of the text, at least represent it correctly. Then you have the Apostle Paul going and presenting the gospel to the apostles of Jesus himself, who then approve of it and who acknowledge that he saw Jesus, that he has the gospel of Jesus, which he's spreading, that he is an apostle now. If he wants to say, oh, Paul never actually saw anything of significance and he never met Jesus, and wants to base that on his rejection of believing that Paul actually saw Jesus, then I wonder why he believes in Islam, when Islam relies on the idea that Muhammad saw the angel Gabriel in a cave. He should be applying that same skepticism to Islam and thereby doubting that Muhammad ever communicated with Allah or with his angels. Why doesn't he do that? It's because he's not consistent.
Christianity, most of the religion is not Jesus's teachings.
Yes, they are. We have the Gospels, which are very, very, very clear on what Jesus said and taught. And the New Testament is full of the Gospels and full of practice and explanation and expansion of what Jesus himself said and taught. We have it all with us.
Jesus didn't do the sign of the cross and didn't outline the prayers that is followed in the.
Well, the Bible doesn't say make the sign. Wait, oh gosh.
The Apostle Paul said you have to make the sign of the cross. He invented that, you see. And by the way, what in the blue hell does this have to do with the question? SNEAKO, why are you Muslim? Why are you following Muhammad? Well, the Paul, I mean, God, my goodness, the Apostle Paul, oh my God, the Trinity, I mean, the Paul, I mean, he wrote all these books. I mean, starting off the Christian persecution. I mean, Paul. I could agree with every idiotic word you've said so far. What does that have to do with why you follow Muhammad, man? And I have to say, here's what he doesn't get. Paul is roughly 487 billion times more reliable than Muhammad. And I made an entire video of this. I thought of 25 different ways you could compare Paul and Muhammad. And so this in terms of like morality, in terms of like miracles, all kinds of things, their intellectual abilities, knowing the relevant languages for being able to examine the teachings of Jesus and so on. Paul was more reliable than Muhammad in all 25 ways. Every single way I could compare them, Paul was more reliable. You put all that together, he is massively, like insanely more reliable than Muhammad. And you're saying, well, I can't trust Paul, therefore, let me trust the guy who's 487 billion times less reliable than him. That makes sense, SNEAKO.
To listen to his teachings. Christianity, most of the religion is not Jesus's teachings. Jesus didn't do the sign of the cross and didn't.
What does the sign of the cross have to do with any of this?
This is
a great example.
Like he's a little
of
familiar with Catholicism from growing up, and then he just reacts to that all the time.
Well, the Orthodox also do the sign of the cross, but it's like it shows his ignorance here of like, but in Christianity they do the sign of the cross.
Therefore, Islam.
Jesus
didn't do the sign of the cross. Therefore, Islam.
The church, the Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, and others that also do the sign of the cross acknowledge that it is not a practice that literally, physically is commanded or started in the New Testament. It is a practice that started very early on. You have records of it in the 2nd century, where Christians generally trace the cross on their own bodies, or from their heads to their upper bodies. So it becomes a thing to identify themselves as Christians and as a reminder. So they start doing it in churches, and then within the church tradition, it becomes a thing that when God is mentioned, when the Trinity is mentioned, you do the sign of the cross. When you enter, you do the sign of the cross. You honor the cross. You honor God. You honor the Trinity. You honor Christianity and all that. But what in the world does that have to do with what is being talked about here? It's not like this was. It's not like the Apostle Paul wrote down, "And all Christians shall henceforth do the sign of the cross, despite the fact that Jesus never commanded any such thing." What is he even criticizing here? And as David just pointed out, what in the world does this have to do with the question, why did you become a Muslim?
Nothing.
This is so stupid, man.
And outline the prayers that is followed in the Catholic Church. Islam, the rules are created by Allah. You see that we have the Quran, and then we follow the Sunnah, the life of and sayings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
The Sunnah.
Oh, so a dude.
The Sunnah.
A dude.
The Sunnah.
The stuff that a dude said and did.
The Sunnah.
Yeah, that.
Stuff that was written down long after Muhammad's body was rotten in the ground.
Yep.
Stuff that was established as something to follow long after the pedophile rapist was dead and buried.
And SNEAKO.
Isn't that what he just criticized about Christianity, allegedly, in his poor understanding?
Yes. Hey, SNEAKO, how do you become a Muslim? How do you become a Muslim? By reciting the Shahada, right? Where does Allah say that Shahada?
Yeah.
Where does Allah say that? Where did Allah say all the things you're supposed to say during your prayers? Where did Allah say all the things you're supposed to do during the Hajj? These all come from a man, dude, a guy who's way less reliable than Paul. And where do your beliefs about Jesus come from? This guy.
It is so freaking ridiculous. When it comes to Christianity, and you want to acknowledge the sources, you have multiple people every single time witnessing the revelation. You have people witnessing the miracles. You have hundreds of people witnessing Jesus throughout his life, his death, his crucifixion, his resurrection, which even Bart Ehrman and others acknowledge. You have people witnessing all this stuff. You have people witnessing the miracles. You have people witnessing things. And then those people who witnessed it delivering to us further what Jesus said and Jesus taught. When it comes to Islam, you have nothing, man, nothing. You have this 7th century desert dweller lunatic who almost wanted to unalive himself, allegedly receiving revelations through an angel who wanted to choke him in the desert. In the cave. They choked me in the desert. And you have no witnesses at all to the miraculous nature of this. You have no witnesses to anything at all. You just trust that guy. And on top of that, centuries after that guy dies, a horrible death, you have humans come in and say things about him and then make rules. And that is the religion that you follow. You're not even aware of this. You don't have any standards. You think that Christianity is the very same thing that Islam actually is, because you're stupid and ignorant.
The way he prayed, the way he acted, it goes right to the source, the prophet. The majority of Christianity is not following Jesus at all. It's Paul, this Jew who was killing early followers of Jesus. When you make that connection and you realize that, wait, I'm supposed to be worshiping Jesus. I want to follow Jesus. I want to listen to his teachings. Then why do I need this guy? He's not even a prophet. Why is this guy even an authority?
He's an apostle, dummy.
The Quran itself acknowledges that Jesus had disciples. Why did Jesus have disciples? Why not just follow Jesus?
It's also pretty interesting how the early Muslim commentators gave the thumbs up to the Apostle Paul as well.
Yeah.
Because they realized if Allah in Surah 61, verse 14, said that he helped the true followers of Jesus until they became uppermost, and the Christians who became uppermost believed in Paul, they couldn't have gotten that wrong because Allah was helping them. Allah was helping them get things right. And therefore, they had to affirm Paul. Later on, Muslims realized, ooh, this stuff from the first century doesn't line up with Islam at all. What are we going to do here? We need to blame someone. So they blame the Apostle Paul. Now you have like anyone who's asked, why do you believe in Islam? Well, the Apostle Paul. Why are you blaming Paul? Paul, according to SNEAKO, overpowered Allah. Allah. Surah 3, verse 55. Allah promises Jesus that he's going to take care of his followers until the day of resurrection. He's going to make them uppermost until the day of resurrection. That's a long time that Allah's promising to protect Jesus' followers. SNEAKO's story is the Apostle Paul came right in there and just ruined it all and then tricked Allah into helping the wrong group become uppermost. That's what SNEAKO is telling us.
What a fantastic religion.
We consider him a prophet, but he was hit with this light and this sound. Why did he write the majority of the New Testament?
He didn't write the majority of the New Testament. He wrote letters that were then considered part of the New Testament.
And then you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to admit I was wrong. You get hit with ego, and then you start deflecting. People get angry, and they don't want to admit that they were wrong. I didn't have a problem with this because at the time I had already kind of strayed away from Christianity, from Catholicism.
Shut up, SNEAKO. Shut up, SNEAKO. Shut up, SNEAKO. You had no idea about any of this. You thought the Council of Nicaea was a book that is in the Bible that was removed. SNEAKO, I don't want to make fun of you. I don't want to humiliate you. Actually, I do. Because it's too easy. And I am kind of mean sometimes. You didn't even know until a year or two ago that you thought until 2 years ago that the Council of Nicaea is actually a book that was removed from the Bible. SNEAKO, you didn't know anything, SNEAKO. You didn't know any of these things. You didn't know anything about what the New Testament actually is. You were asked to quote something from the New Testament. And you were saying, what was you saying?
He was saying Matt 5 because it abbreviated it. He didn't know it was Matthew. And he didn't know how chapters and verses work. And he goes, it's Matt 5, because that's what it said on the screen. It was Matt 5.
SNEAKO, you didn't know any of these things. Please do not pretend now. I don't want to mock you for not knowing something, but please don't pretend that you actually knew these things. Wait, do you have the clip somewhere of him talking about the book of the Council of Nicaea?
Oh.
Have you heard of the Council of Nicaea? There's been a lot of chapters that have been removed, and the Bible's been tampered and manipulated with a lot over the years. Well, they did remove the Council of Nicaea from the original Bible. A lot of people haven't read those parts of the Bible.
Yep.
Council of Nicaea. What are you're saying? There's a book called the Council of Nicaea?
Yeah.
There's not no book called the Council of Nicaea.
It's not a whole book, but it's. Let's see.
That was powerful, man.
SNEAKO.
Yep.
SNEAKO,
Dawa guys saw him and they said, oh, what a beautiful mark here, man. This guy is really, really gullible and stupid.
This is you, SNEAKO. Nobody believes that you actually understood the Christianity and then therefore left. Nobody actually believes this, SNEAKO. You thought the Council of Nicaea is a book that has been removed from the Bible, SNEAKO. SNEAKO, don't pretend, please, SNEAKO.
Before that, you don't have it. These other people, I really feel bad because they don't know what it's like to have that serenity, to have that calmness, to have truth, to connect with the Creator, to put your head to the floor on this carpet 5 times a day. They don't know what it's like
What's
to pray.
up, big dog? I am a recent revert. When do I get a 6-year-old wife?
Guys still seating.
How does that stuff just randomly pop up while he's... How does this even work? Oh, it automatically jumps in with the super chats because that's a super chat. What's up, big
Yes.
dog? I'm a recent revert. When do I get a 6-year-old wife? What's up, big dog?
Oh my god.
It's funny that he says I'm a recent revert.
It's funny in the middle of the ranting. His super chat is being read out loud.
And they keep saying like, "Oh, you're a Muslim grifter. You're a Muslim grifter."
You know what's funny? What happens when people convert to Islam, they become apologists for pedophilia, rape, and slavery. When people become Christians, they become selfless people who like to help others and who actually, want to defend the truth. It's a very, very interesting observation to have.
But AP, once you start defending Islam and you start defending child marriage and banging little kids, all of a sudden your face lights up because you're a pervert and you get really happy that now you can promote banging kids and your face is lit up, and we call that nur. That's when Allah lights up your face with joy because you know you'll get to bang little kids.
You see, this is the nur.
This is the nur.
The nur. I'm exploding.
Look at the nur.
Nordine.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.
Stay away from Islam.